Burgess here with Music Marketing TV. Today we're going to be making this bass pluck sound inside of Faceplant. Go down an octave. Oh yeah. Boom. Up an octave. Change the modulation. Yeah, so this patch is kind of interesting. There's a couple of things that have to be like just right, and it suddenly takes on this quality that things anywhere like the neighboring numbers just don't give it. So the input, let's just start at the beginning. We're gonna make this from scratch, but let's just really quick go over the main ideas. So if we take off just the verb and the hostillate, we don't even need the hostillate. It's not doing anything anymore. That's essentially what it is without the reverb. And if we lose the cleanup filters, we have the core of what's going on. So these are just getting rid of things. So like, yeah, it's a little bass heavy and things. But essentially what it is there's an FM'd sawtooth waveform that has some blurring on it, both in the form of unison and ensemble. If we lose that, it becomes a bit sharper of a sound, a little bit brighter. As you can hear. And it goes through a resonator. This resonator gives us control over the decay because it's actually quite a sharp sound. So without the resonator, yeah. We lose the filter. It is a horrible mess. I get joy out of turning things like that into cool things. Like, that's so funny to me, just how it sounds at the end. Okay, so basically some FM stuff. What I was saying earlier too about some of the particulars, minus 14, minus 25 sounds pretty cool. I started the patch with that. 7 would probably also work pretty well. 7's a fifth away. Just looking for interesting ratios. Maybe if I lower it. It doesn't have quite that same sort of quality that 14 or the others had though. That's pretty cool. And another one is the amount of FM, oddly specific. If it needs to be within a couple points, a couple numbers of 58%. And if you go negative, it's like 70% or something. But in the positive direction, if I even change it a bit, we lose a lot of that nice forward sound. See that? Too plucky. Not enough. And then all of a sudden, defined tone is right in there. Since the envelope controls the envelope for the filter and also the sync control, what ends up happening is if this is too low, this is too slow, and we get too much of that high end. So it acts kind of like a filter unto itself. So yeah, those are some of the key concepts we're going to replicate. So I have this saved as a preset already. So we're going to go for new, and let's go for this, right? So we're going to add analog first. And the first thing we're going to dial up here is we are going to get the filter working, and I'm also going to turn on the unison. So right now, yeah, that's what we have. We're going to add an envelope down here, bring the attack out, and bow it up just a smidge. We're going to have this move the sync. So let me just move the sync to show you what it sounds like. That's what it is. But what I like is if we bump it up just a bit and then just have it come down, the waveform moves a little bit, and this creates a little bit of pitch movement that can make the modulation sometimes do some cool things. So we're going to take advantage of that. So I'm going to take this and move it negatively in the downward direction. Might set this a bit higher. So you see it's a very low frequency motion. Or high frequency. I don't know what frequency it is. It's a motion. Okay, we got a motion on there. So what we're going to take is we're going to now take this. we're going to run it through a filter. Let's get the filter set up before we do any FM, because the FM is going to be very bright, and I don't want to hear all that brightness all the time. So the slope is going to be, you know, how sharp it is, and this is going to matter when it's in motion because, oops, sorry about that. It is going to matter when it's in motion because that's going to change the attack of how it removes the high end quite a bit. I found that I liked 2, but the higher order filters can reduce the amount of brightness on the attack besides just moving this. So that could be kind of a useful thing to know. We're going to set this to the cutoff, and we're going to negatively modulate it so that it moves down when this moves up. And it's very, very sharp. We're going to set this up and give this a more reasonable range. Okay, so we are now in a position where we can maybe look at a little bit of FM. So let's take here, and when you want to click here so it adds it to this group, if you click down here, it'll add it and like make a new group and a new output. We just want to add it to the existing group so it doesn't go anywhere because we don't want to hear this directly. We're going to use it to modulate something. So I'm going to grab this. We're going to modulate the phase. And I already know it's 59. This came from a bunch of experimenting. So in the process of making this, I just stumbled across that this sounded cool. So I'm going to use that knowledge now. But if you're wondering, like, how do you come across these sorts of decisions on your own? It just sort of happens. You're doing a lot of tweaking and messing around. You find something that's oddly works. And so we're gonna go with that. So, okay, we've got it all set up. We're going to now change the semicent to be a lower frequency. A higher will result in just a really plucky sound because it's going to move this up as well. You see that? So we're gonna we want the opposite. So we're gonna bring it down. And there'll be a few that really stick out as like some cool things. Now it's hard to tell at this stage because we're missing a lot of the chain that really gave it the character that it did. There were 2 things in particular that really mattered: that resonator and the distortion. So let's add the resonator now, just so we have that in our chain. The resonator, if you don't tune it up, I'm going to move it to C5 because I want it, when this is playing a C, for this to play a C. This will make sense in a second. If I play right now, it's always just going to resonate at C, which isn't what we want. We want this to move around with the notes that we're playing. So we're going to add a modulator in the MIDI section called note. And we're going to take this note modulator and attach it 100% to the note that it's going to resonate at. And they'll move around up and down by the same amount. And we can now extend or reduce the decay. So pretty cool. Now that we have these things set up, let's fix up a few other things. First, we're going to go to a square wave. It's going to sound a little bit nicer. Adjust our filter maybe some. Bring in our attack some. And I am now going to mess with the sync on the modulating waveform. So this is since FM is a shape-based process, by moving the sync, we change the shape, and this is going to have quite the effect on this. We're just going to move this up till we find a nice sweet spot. I'm also going to really quick tap on here a reverb. I just like hearing things a little bit more with some verb on them sometimes. So we're just going to dial back the size and the decay a bit. And let's move the sync control. Kind of like right there. Okay, so we're going to add one more big feature that we don't have yet, and that is the distortion. So we're just going to grab the distortion. I'm going to change it to fold back. You can try the others. A lot of them are pretty similar. Dial the fold back up quite a bit. We're getting there. Move this, try out the sync. Move this sync. try this. Nope. 58, 59 continues to be the sweet spot. We could try minus 25. That's another one that I found worked out pretty well, but you could, of course, experiment. Ooh, actually, I think I like this more than the first time I made it. Okay, so with this setup, I also decided to add a little bit of more blur, and I did that in the form of an ensemble with a low pitch. Bring the spread down as well. 6 voices, maybe make it like 2 or 3. Maybe just 2. And then finally, there's like a ton of low end. I don't know what you're listening over, but if you're listening over nice headphones or decent monitors, the low end's pretty ridiculous. So we're going to add a filter. Now, you could choose a bandpass filter, but the bandpass filter is a locked, like you can't independently control it. So we're going to instead make one by doing a low pass and a high pass just to rein it in. You could also do a bit of the high pass with this filter here, but I'm going to do it here. Just a little bit more control. Let's get rid of that low end. Let's bring this up to like 3 and find a spot for it. We'll bypass this for now so it's not in the way. That's so chonky. Okay. We'll go over here, turn this one on. Now here, we could bring up the decay in order to get those longer textures out. Try lower notes. And now if I were to do 14, I'd probably tune up this a little bit more in the sync and try and find another sweet spot. But I think I really dug the 25 at that octave. Yeah, it's got a really nice pluck to it. Try the sawtooth. Sawtooths tend to have a little bit more grit to them, where square waves tend to sound more like a tube. It's kind of like someone's blowing over a flute very hard, just briefly. Take in the decay in size a bit, pump up the reverb mix. But anyways, that's the process for making this kind of a sound. Now, this one's a little bit less gritty than the first one I made. If you want more grit, you can, again, mess with these ratios a little bit. Some of these things are like, little moves can do a lot. And also you can pump up the drive and mess with the dynamics knob. Which are things you could also attach to a modulator or a macro that you could automate along with the decay in order to get an expressive change from something that's like not so crazy to something that's big, long, and super aggressive. That could be a really cool way to do, a sick melody in your track. If you have any questions about this, feel free to let me know, subscribe, and hit that bell icon for future videos, and have a blessed day.